On a peaceful evening in town, Julie had returned from work, tired as usual. The warmth of the small apartment gave her peace. After eating dinner, she had read a book for a while and then gone to bed. It was around 11 p.m. and her eyes were slowly closing. In the middle of the silence, Julie's phone rang. The high-pitched sound of the phone echoed in the dark room. Julie was startled for a moment because no one would call her at this hour. She picked up the phone and looked at the screen. The incoming call was from a number she did not recognize. Who would call at this hour, she thought. She answered the phone hesitantly. "Sir?" she said, her voice a little uncomfortable and sleepy. There was a deep breathing sound from the other side. Julie waited, but no one spoke. After a while, the person on the other end spoke in a high-pitched and muffled voice. "Listen to me. I need you," Julie asked in surprise. "Who is this?" But the phone suddenly hung up. This strange call had a restless feeling inside Julie. At first, she thought it was a prank, but a few minutes after the call, her phone started ringing again. It was the same number. This time, Julie didn't answer. The phone went silent immediately before a message came. "Come in. I'm waiting for you." The message had the address of an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town that hadn't been used for years. Julie remembered the place. They used to drive past it as kids, but they never went inside. The factory had been closed down after a fire, and everyone said it was cursed. Julie held her phone in her hand for a moment, not knowing what to do. Her heart was beating rapidly. She decided to ignore the message and went back to bed, but just then, a photo popped up on her phone. The photo showed her apartment door. The photo had a single word written underneath it. "Now." Julie froze in fear when she saw the photo. Who was watching her? When was the photo taken? She checked her phone again with shaking hands. She was sure she had locked the door, but still the fear inside her did not subside. A short while later, a new message popped up on her phone. "I'm approaching you." Julie's fear reached its peak with this message. She considered calling the police immediately, but the texts and calls seemed to have somehow hypnotized her. With each new message, Julie began to feel more helpless. Despite her fear, Julie made a decision. She had to go to the factory to find out what was going on. She checked the address sent on her phone. As she left the apartment, the silence and cold outside made her even more uneasy. She got in her car and drove out of town. The factory stood eerily in the darkness of the night. It looked like a ghost with its old, rusted metal doors and collapsed roof. Julie got out of her car and turned off the headlights. As she approached the front of the factory, the silence around her became more apparent. There was not even a sound of wind. She pushed the door open and went inside. Inside, old machines, dust-covered boxes and cobwebs covered everything. She turned on her phone's flashlight and started walking. At that moment, another message came to her phone. The message read, "Go deeper to find me." She heard a voice along with the message. There was an echo as if something metal had fallen to the ground. Julie immediately turned her light in that direction, but she couldn't see anyone. However, there was a mud-like mark on the ground. The tracks led to an old staircase in the factory. Julie headed for the stairs, filled with curiosity mixed with fear. The stairs led down to a dark basement. The creaking of metal with each step was jarring to her ears. When she went downstairs, she encountered an airless, musty-smelling area. It was completely dark inside, and the only source of light was Julie's phone. As she headed deeper into the basement, she noticed a door slightly ajar. When she pushed the door open, she saw an old table and a few chairs inside. There was an old notebook on the table. When she opened the notebook, there were frightening notes written inside. "They left me here, but now I won't be alone." Julie's breath caught. She closed the notebook and was about to turn back when she heard a whisper behind her. The whisper was vague at first, but it became clearer over time. "I know you're coming." She turned around in fear, but she couldn't see anyone. The whisper seemed to be getting closer. She immediately started running towards the exit. However, the corridors in the basement were connected like a maze. No matter how far Julie ran, she always found herself in the same spot. Julie panicked and grabbed her phone to try to call the police, but there was no signal on her phone. Just then, another message arrived on her phone. "Don't try to escape. You're here now." With this message, heavy footsteps could be heard from the depths of the factory. It was as if someone was walking slowly and heavily, as if the factory was echoing. Julie tried to get away from where the sound was coming from, but the sound was everywhere. At one point, she stopped completely. Her heart was pounding and she was out of breath. She closed her eyes in the darkness and muttered to herself, "This must be a nightmare." At that moment, a hand touched her shoulder. Julie screamed and turned around, but no one was there. However, a sign appeared on the wall of the room. The text, which appeared to be written in blood, read, "I called you to save me, but you are with me now." When Julie opened her eyes in the morning, she found herself in bed. Was everything a dream? But when she looked at her phone, the messages she had received during the night were still there. Moreover, there was a photo on her phone taken in the factory basement. From that day on, Julie started receiving calls from an unknown number every night at 2 a.m. And every time she heard the same words. "Come, I'm waiting for you."